Hey everyone, Kirk here, and welcome back to the Geek Effect. In today's video, I'll be taking a look at the Gwen Stacy from the Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man line. Now, this was a figure that released back in 2020, so it has been out for quite some time, and also has kind of become a bit scarce to kind of come across, at least at retail price or whatever. But at the time I got this, it was from Big Bad Toy Store. They had this in stock along with the Daredevil that is a part of this collection, so I got both of those around the same time frame. So I'm really excited to get this one unboxed. A couple of weeks ago, I took a look at the Spider-Man from this same collection, and I was very pleased with how that figure turned out. You can see him in the background, and I am looking forward to seeing how this one turns out. I think right off the bat, just looking at it at first glance, it looks pretty cool, and I love the comic book inspired look of the outfit that they have going on here. You can also see that there is an additional head for another character by the name of Mary Jane Watson. So that's interesting. We'll see how that really comes into play with this figure and how it looks. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the packaging. Starting off with the packaging, there isn't a whole lot to say about it actually, because this is the exact same packaging you get for the Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man from the animated series. So it has that Toy Biz style packaging, which, like I said, I absolutely love that they went with that because it gives this very unique feel to it compared to just using the regular Legend style boxes. And of course you have the Spider-Man logo at the top with Spider-Man perched on top of the logo, along with the 90s style Marvel Comics logo in the corner. The only differences here, of course, is that they have to feature the character that is inside the packaging. So this one being Gwen Stacy, you have that nice artwork on the side there. And then you also have another one of those info cards that tells you sort of the functionality or what comes with the figure. And it just mentions the textbook accessory, which you can see in the box as well for the Midtown High School, and along with some other accessories in there, which we'll get to that in a bit. Flipping the box around to the back, you do get some more artwork and info on this figure. So it does state that Gwen Stacy is a bright student with a keen scientific mind. Gwen Stacy is girlfriend to Peter Parker. You also have another bit of artwork over here where it just tells you that you can swap out the heads. Like I said, this does come with a alternate head sculpt, which is for Mary Jane Watson. And so you can swap that out with this figure's original head, which is for Gwen Stacy. So that's pretty cool. Moving at the bottom, you can also see, once again, the figures that come in this collection, which was from Wave 1 back in 2020, Retro Spider-Man, Marvel's Electro, Peter Parker, Green Goblin, and Daredevil. That's pretty much it for the entirety of this packaging. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing out of the box. Alright, so here is Gwen Stacy out of the box, and let me just say, I believe Marvel Legends and the Hasbro team did a great job with translating the comic book style look of this character into figure form. I'm also glad that they went with this outfit and look of the character because it's more iconic, if I'm being completely honest, as well as this is the exact same attire that Gwen Stacy wears during the Death of Gwen Stacy storyline, and that's a very important storyline, especially for Spider-Man and Peter Parker as a person. So I do think that going with that was the better option, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Moving in a bit closer to the figure, you will see all of the details, which there aren't a lot of them, like texture and stuff with this figure. It's not so elaborate like the other figures in this retro collection, but it does have the details and everything where it counts, like the head sculpt, most importantly. So you have a lot of the facial features going on here with the blue eyes, the natural sort of lip color going on there, and the sculpting on the cheeks and everything like that are very nice in my opinion. You also see the eyelashes and the very fine sort of looking eyebrows as well. So I do love what they did there. My favorite part of this head sculpt though has definitely got to be the hair itself, because it has this very elegant sort of look to it, this flowing look to it as well, with the waves going inside the hair and blowing in the wind sort of along with the black hairband. So that is nice. Moving down towards the torso, you have some more sculpting, but it's not a whole bunch of it, if I'm being completely honest, because like I said, this is a very simple looking outfit. There isn't a whole bunch that they can do with it, but they did add some texture to the black shirt, along with some more texture like wrinkles and stuff in the jacket itself, on the sleeves, the back of the jacket, and along the tail of the jacket as well. You also have the belt for the jacket too, and that is not a separate piece, and I think that might be an issue for some people, but if it were me, I don't have much of an issue with that because I feel like you could easily lose that piece, and plus it would be kind of difficult trying to weave that through the loop of the jacket if they were to have gone with that option. Moving down towards the skirt area, you do have the purple skirt, but there isn't much to say about it. You have some very slight wrinkles in there. You can kind of notice it a bit in the front and along the back, but there isn't so much going on with that. As you move down towards the legs, you'll see some sculpting in the legs with the knee joint and everything like that. It's very slim and very smooth as well. But when you move down towards the boot area, that's where you'll see some sculpting in the foot area for the boot, where you have the heel of the boot and everything like that. Turned out pretty well. One of the things I will say though is that at first I was thinking, why wouldn't they, add some sculpting to the leg of the boot that goes around the calf area and, have it some texture going on there. But when I think about it, I believe these boots are meant to be more skin tight, if anything. So it's not a big deal now that I think about it. And honestly, the fact that they were able to make it all even and not have a sort of uneven line going on for the end of the leg of the boot is very nice. I think it turned out pretty well. So I have no complaints there when it comes to that. When it comes to accessories, this figure has a nice assortment of them. It's a total of 4, starting with this rolled up newspaper for the Daily Bugle. And I think that this is a very nice piece to come with this figure. You have the Daily Bugle logo for the newspaper on the rolled up paper, which is not actually paper, it's just hard plastic that has a bit of a bend to it. And it's got some nice sculpting going on there. And then you can easily just fit that into the hand right here. And it has a nice grip on it, and that turns out very nice in my opinion. You could easily pull that out. The next accessory that you get here is the textbook that I mentioned on the box art or packaging for this figure, and that is in dark red and it says Midtown High School. There is some slight sculpting to it where you have the spine of the book, and then you can see the indent right there. Like, it would be nice if this did have like white in between. That would have just added that extra bit of detail. But that is something that, you could easily customize, get some white paint, and you can paint in between that and add that extra bit of detail there. As for which hand to really put it inside of, it's not really clear, if I'm being completely honest. Like, you could kind of fit it in between this one and it works a bit. It doesn't, go falling anywhere. It works. Or you could, even just choose to have it under her arm and, work it that way. But of course, it doesn't really hold that well. Moving on, you have this folder for her to put her papers and stuff in. It does not open, it is only sculpted, and it has some nice sculpting going on there, I must say. You can see some texture on the spine of it, some more texture on the inside of it, and that could easily just go right under her arm with a much better grip compared to the Midtown High textbook. So that does look nice, and I love that the blue color kind of complements the rest of her outfit. It looks very nice in my opinion. Now, the final accessory, which is, in my opinion, I always count these as accessories because it's an additional piece to the figure. It's not actually a part of the main way the figure is advertised, but if you pull off the Gwen Stacy head, you actually have another head to replace it, which is the Mary Jane Watson head. And this is a very nice head to have. It's a bit difficult, at least right now, for me to actually put it on, but once you get it on, it looks pretty fair in my opinion. Now, this is not the attire that Mary Jane wears at all, so it is kind of confusing as to why they would have done that. Maybe, another head sculpt of Gwen Stacy would have worked, or maybe it just doesn't really need an additional head, but it is nice to have. You do see a lot of the sculpting in the hair does look much more detailed in comparison to the Gwen Stacy, so this one does have, some black wash inside of it to kind of add some highlights to the dark red or the red hair that she has. And it turns out very nice, especially with the other facial features to complement it, like the red eyebrows and the blue eyes and the red lipstick and everything like that. Now, one thing this does leave me hoping for is that at some point, Marvel Legends will release a retro carded Mary Jane figure to go along with these other characters. Because, if you have Gwen Stacy and, then you're going to just give us the head sculpt, you might as well make it complete and, give an actual figure. Now, when it comes to the articulation, there isn't a whole bunch of it, so if that's what you're expecting when you take this figure out of the box or purchase it, definitely don't go into it expecting that, because it's kind of restricted in certain areas. The head area does have some nice, rotation and angling going on here, so you can get some nice sort of poses with the head, but when it comes to angling it back, you can't really do that because of the hair that gets in the way, but you can angle it all the way down like that if need be. and it does get the job done. As for the arms, you have the regular rotation and articulation in both of the arms where you can rotate it 360 degrees. Same with the elbow joint. And then you also have some pivoting and everything in the wrist. So you can pivot it up, pivot it down, and also rotate it as well. So it does have the articulation where it counts for that area. As for the mid torso, you do have some rotation in there. You can rotate it all the way around and angle it slightly down, but not too much because it's not really meant to do that. You can angle it back just a bit, but that's as far as it's gonna go. There's no articulation in the waist, unfortunately. I do wish that that was something that could have been there. I think that this could have been a separate piece and definitely allow for some more articulation, but it's fine. It's not really necessary when it comes to this figure. As for the joint area for the knees, you do have your usual angles and everything going on in there with the bending going in. As far as that, it does get blocked a bit because of the jacket. Unfortunately, same thing with this leg, but it does get the job done still. You get a fairly decent amount of bending going on there. The thigh area does rotate 360 degrees, same with the other thigh. And then the calf of this leg does not have any articulation. It's just one piece, which is kind of the standard for most Legends figures. It was lately that I kind of just experienced the other piece of the leg having articulation when it came to the Spiderman figure, which was pretty nice to have that there. As for the ankle joints, you do have some more articulation, so that does rock from side to side, which is pretty nice, and you can angle it in just a bit, and that's as far as you can angle it back. When it comes to any sort of poses you may want to do with this figure, just keep in mind that it's not going to be easy whatsoever. Like, it's very difficult trying to have this figure stand up on its own without any support, like, at all. And so you could, do something like this, but you gotta have like both feet down on the ground, and otherwise, like you see right there, it's still gonna kind of fall over with any slight sort of bump or motion that goes on or surrounding it, unfortunately. So I would recommend getting some sort of support stand or something for this figure if you want to be able to have, say her legs crossed or something like that, or maybe, in a running position or any sort of motion like that, because otherwise you're not going to be able to easily balance this thing. And maybe you could, it's just, like I said, it's going to take a lot of effort and everything like that. But luckily you do have things like these accessories like the Daily Bugle, rolled up newspaper, so you could have her kind of pose with that in a way, have that in her hand and as if it's like kind of holding it up to display or something like that, and have her hand on her hip or something like that works. Or you could swap that out and give her the Midtown High book and put that in her hand like that. Kind of, like I said, this is not the best piece to really kind of put in this hand. You kind of have to just, like I said, just put it here, but you could do that like so, and have that under there, and you can have her posed with it, and it works. But like I said, get a support stand or something for this figure when it comes to the leg area, because otherwise it's not gonna stand up. Like, I've tried several times and it just doesn't really work. For a second I thought I was about to prove me wrong, but it really just doesn't work at all, unfortunately. So overall, I think that this figure turned out very nice, and I love what the Hasbro and Marvel Legends team did here. Being able to translate this character from its comic book style into a figure form turned out very well for it, and I do want to congratulate them on that. Now, as I did state before, one of my biggest issues with this figure would definitely be posing it, just because the articulation, first of all, is restricted, especially with the leg area, and so it does make it somewhat difficult to pose. And then just being able to balance it on like one leg, or if you want to have like it in a running position, just isn't the best thing to do with this figure. You're going to need some sort of support stand for it in order for it to, stand up and keep that pose without falling over constantly. So I wish that, that wasn't the case with this figure, but that is kind of what you have to deal with, unfortunately. Now, as for any of the accessories and anything like that, I do think that they do fit the character very well, like the textbook and the newspaper. And although the Mary Jane head is nice to have, like I said, it does leave me desiring to, see an actual Mary Jane figure in this retro collection for Spider-Man. And hopefully that's something we will see at some point later down the line, because having a head on an outfit that doesn't really fit a character too well just kind of feels lazy to me. It's lazy writing, as Deadpool would say. But I do overall think that this entire figure is a pretty good one to have in the collection. I would definitely recommend picking it up if you have the chance. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you guys did, be sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I have noticed some new faces in the comment section lately, and I just want to say thank you to those of you who have been subscribing to the channel and, have been coming across it, whether it be shared to you or you guys searching for some sort of review for these types of action figures and coming across my channel and checking it out. It means a lot to me that you guys do that and show your support, because everyone, needs support in their life, and it definitely does help to encourage them to do more of the things that they love doing. For me, it's collecting action figures and taking photos and stuff of them. Like last year when I decided to start this channel and this whole journey of just going back into this hobby of having action figures and just taking it from a whole new aspect now, because now I'm older and it's not just playing with them, it's collecting them and then wanting to take photos and experiment with that whole area of everything. Like that's been fun too. Towards the end of last year, I was able to find a sort of sweet spot when it came to posting content. Like once a week, I think is definitely going to work for me, because it's not too much pressure, but it does allow me to still have some sort of consistency for you guys to sort of expect in the future and everything when it comes to like when to expect a new video or sort of things like that. And that's pretty much it. If you guys aren't already following me on Instagram, be sure to go ahead and do so at It's the Geek Effect. And same thing on Twitter, where I don't really post too much of the action figure stuff on Twitter. I think it's more so like random tweets and stuff, retweets. That's about it. But Instagram is where most of the content is for the photos and any behind the scenes sort of action going on. That being said, I hope you all have an amazing day. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. And I'll catch you all later. Peace out.